So here's the question I want to ask you. Have you ever gotten sidetracked in your business, or do you feel like you're sidetracked now? Type one in the comments if you feel like things are just getting off track, things are just not going the way that you want it to go for you. It happens to all of us. I'll tell you this. I've been sidetracked before too. I've had things to happen. Sometimes they happen beyond your control, and they're not, you don't mean for them to. They just happen, right? So guys, what we're going to talk about tonight, I want you to know it's based on my experience from working in the real estate industry for 14 years. 14 years. And you know what, guys? And I'm going to give you guys some examples of what I'm talking about getting sidetracked, right? So what kind of stuff typically gets most agents sidetracked? And I'm not calling any specific person out. I'm talking about personal experience, what other agents tell me, and just things that I see going on with friends and stuff in the industry. I think the number one thing is just life, right? Just things happen in life, and you miss a few days, you go on vacation, and next thing you know, that 1 week off, 3 weeks off or a month off, and you know, and you still haven't really went back to work. You went back to the office because you want to check your mail. Clark, I'll get to that question here in just a minute. But sometimes it's just life. Sometimes this time of year, the thing that got a lot of us off track is kids being out of school, right? Kids being out of school. They were going, when they're in school, you got to get up at, maybe you're the person that gets up and takes them, right? And you take the kids to school, then you quit and you go to the office, drop them off and then go to the office, right? Sometimes it's running errands for a spouse or significant other, family member. Family members are great too. Number four, one of the things that I think this should have been number two right behind life is we end up being in reaction mode, right? We have a couple of problem closing. Sometimes it's just one. We have one problem closing. We have one little issue that goes on in our business, and rather than getting up and going and prospecting every morning, what we do is we get up and we react to that one thing going on, which is wild. And we all do this. We're all guilty of that. Number five is good weather. It could be bad weather, right? Right? Some agents don't want to go to work when it's raining. Some agents don't want to go to work when the sun's shining. It's kind of wild. The weather sometimes throws us off track. We had like 3 weeks of rain here recently in Myrtle Beach. Number six, I think this is crazy, but sometimes the things that got you off track is, some stupid magic bullet, magic question, whatever bullshit thing is coming out there, got to work on your Instagram or got to work on your Snapchat or whatever crazy buzzword is that somebody promises is going to be easier, right? There's no easy button. I want to tell you guys that. If you're looking for an easy button on this call, none of the stuff we talk about is hard, but none of it's just like a set it, forget it thing. I'll be honest with you, that doesn't really happen, If you're looking for something like that, I don't know if the real estate business is the place for you. And I'm just being honest with you, Number seven, some of us get sidetracked because we just don't know what to do. Maybe we got in the business. We had a few deals come up real quick. There were friends, family, people we knew, things like that. Referrals from friends, family. But then those things ended. Now we just don't know what to do. There's a lot of us do that. Sometimes the thing that gets you off track, number eight, is agents in your office, right? Agents in your office will, they talk bad about the market. They say the market's hard. They say the market's bad. Raise your hand if you ever had an agent do that in your office. They said, hey, the market's so bad, and they talk bad about the market, then you left feeling a little bit discouraged. Right? I think every one of those agents that sits around in the office doesn't do shit all day except for talk about how bad the market is. I think the broker in charge should ask them, hey, don't come to the office no more. Keep your license here, just don't come. You're bringing everybody else down. But that don't happen in the real estate industry for some reason. And I think that should, right? Other agents in the office will kill your motivation quicker than anything out there. They say calling for sale by owners is hard. How many of you guys have not called expireds or not called for sale by owners because another agent in your office told you it was hard, right? Number 9 is Facebook. And Facebook, I made it its own thing here on this one because, Facebook's kind of crazy. A lot of us, we can waste a lot of time talking to friends, family, looking at, crazy stuff, crazy videos, stuff like that. But also we can spend a lot of time spinning our wheels trying to figure out Facebook ads and how to market things and stuff. The stuff I teach my agents in my group coaching and stuff. I'm not saying you should never do Facebook ads or it should never be a strategy you add to your list. I'm just saying there's a lot more predictable ways to get business right now. And Facebook's making a lot of changes. Stuff that worked. I tell a lot of agents, I got a business page with 60,000 likes on it. The stuff that I did to build that page, I can't really teach you guys because it don't work anymore with Facebook. Facebook's changed. Stuff that agents did 2 or 3 months ago on Facebook, it doesn't really work as well today, right? You spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, get really discouraged working on trying to hit a moving target. And I think that's what sometimes social media, that's what it is. There's no easy way. A lot of it's trial and error. Not 100% sure anybody really knows how to do it. Some people just figure it out a little bit quicker than others. Number 10, friends, family, and others. Friends and family, man, I just had my family. They were down here for a week. They were down here for a week on vacation. And I tell you what, I love them. I like to see them. I like it when they come down here. My parents have a house kind of close to us. But, man, for that week, man, it throws our schedule all off. And then it takes us another week to get back on it. So, guys, those are just some things. So let's jump right into the part that's going to help you and help you guys make some more money this week, hopefully. So, guys, so what do you do about all this stuff? What do you do about it? We're at a good time of the year. If your kids have been the thing that's kind of threw you off the last 2 or 3 months, the good thing about it is school starts back. Some places it's already started back, but if it hadn't, it's going to here pretty soon. So, yeah, Mickey, that's right, man. Facebook, it's a moving target. The algorithm's always going to change. It's like doing search engine optimization. That was the big thing a few years ago, and it used to be pretty predictable. However, it's not anymore, right? So what do you do about it all? The number one thing you got to do right now, and a lot of us don't take the time to do this, is review where you are and what you're actually doing every day. Guys, I think that one of the things that we don't do enough in our business, in our lives, is we don't plan time to review what we have going on and review what we're actually doing. And I think it's really important. To schedule a little bit of time each week. It's not driving in your car. It's not talking with somebody else one-on-one about it. Sometimes what it is you're sitting there with a pen and paper in front of a whiteboard and you're going, okay, this is how my business works. Guys, I'll tell you, I start every week with a list of goals for that week. Now, those goals are in line with what my big goal is, right? These are just the weekly steps. These are just the little weekly steps that are going to help me get there. But I review every week. I plan time to review. And I think sometimes we got to do this. Sometimes we got to look at it and say, okay, man, what am I doing every day? And if your day is looking like, hey, I sleep until I wake up. I don't get up at any certain time. I don't have any morning ritual. I think morning rituals are important. I think morning rituals put us in the mindset to be successful and to have that amazing day. I believe you can have an amazing day every day, but you got to plan to have an amazing day, right? I believe we can plan to be high performance individuals. I don't think being a high performance individual just happens to you, but you got to review what you're doing what you're doing, and you got to review what you're doing every day, every week, right? Because it's easy to get off track. It's easy to feel like you worked all day because you were at the office or you're away from home. But then when you really thought about it, like, wait a second, well, I talked to an agent in my office about nothing for 2 hours. Then I went to lunch, spent an hour and a half going to lunch with somebody that wasn't going to do business with me. They wasn't going to buy or sell a house. And I mean, it's just really, really easy to get really off track if you're not reviewing what you're doing and reviewing your performance daily. Number 2, you got to review your goals. You got to review your goals and where you are towards those goals. And what I'm talking about is whatever goal you set at the beginning of the year. One of the things I ask every agent that tells me they're having a problem and they're way off their goal. This is the question that I tell you what, I'm going to type it out because I want you guys to be able to see it, not just hear me say it. Is there any way possible for you to still hit that goal? Right? I think it's really, really important that we review where we're at in the year. Because if you set that goal and you want to sell 24 houses this year, 2 a month, and I'm just using this as an example, or you set that goal where you want to sell 100 this year, right? But if you want to sell 2 a month, okay, and you've only sold, we're in August and you've sold 10, and you're supposed to have sold 16 by now, so you're 6 off. Is there any way possible for you to add another 6 transactions to your goal this year? Now, I believe it is. I believe it is personally, but I believe that some of you guys probably don't want to work hard enough. I think that's something that I've seen a lot too. Some of you just don't want to work hard enough to pick up that ground. But you need to ask yourself, is there any way possible to still hit my goal, right? Because I'll tell you this, even if you can't hit your goal, you can finish the year really strong and set yourself up to be in a really good position next year. Even if you can't hit your goal this year, you can finish the year really strong, right? We only have 4 months until Christmas is going to be here. So whatever promises you made to your spouse, your kids, your significant other, yourself, whatever promises you made, if you promised them all you're going to take them to Disney World for Christmas, then all of that stuff is coming. All that stuff is coming. Now, number 3, I think this is something that's really important for all of us that we need to do, especially this time of year when the summer's over, summer's coming to an end, is we need to set up our schedule again. Guys, you need to review your schedule. Number 1, did you have a schedule to begin with? I see this a lot in the real estate business. Is a lot of agents, they think since we're independent contractors, some of us think we have our own business. There's so many different opinions about what exactly it is we do, or how do you classify what it is we do. But one of the biggest things I see is a lot of agents think, hey, let's just say my last job I worked for Sears. Okay, so, and I mean, this was when I was in college. So my last job was working at Sears, and Sears gave me a schedule. Okay, and I had to follow that schedule. So when I started selling real estate, a couple of things happened. Number 1 was I didn't have a schedule, so I thought I had to work all the time. Now, how many of you guys feel like you have to work all the time? Right? I got 4 or 5 people, 6 people, 7 people raise their hand. How many people if you're on Facebook, put in the comments, I work all the time. How many of you feel like, man, I work all the time? I don't have a schedule. I work all the time. Now, here's the reason why. It's because you're in reaction mode all the time, right? The reason why a lot of you guys are in the reason why a lot of you guys are in reaction mode all the time is because the way you're working your business and the way you've set up your business. Now listen to me here, and you can definitely, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but okay, if your business is buyer heavy and you're doing things like Zillow, you're doing Facebook ads, you're doing realtor.com, right? A lead comes through. We're preached to so much in the real estate business that when that lead comes through, we need to call it right away, because if we don't, it's going to go away. So we are literally at the mercy of our email. And when a lead comes through, we're like, holy shit, I got to stop what I'm doing. I got to get up from dinner. I got to step outside and I got to call this person right now. Because if I don't, they're going to go to the next agent because they registered on 10 websites. So literally, if we're getting 3 or 4 leads a day, 5 leads a day, we can be 8 o'clock. We're sitting on the couch with our significant other watching a movie. We're really into it. Our phone buzzes and man, we got to jump up. We got to make that call. How many of you guys have ever done that? Yep, I got some of you on Facebook already. I mean, on Zoom already. That's because you're in reaction mode all the time. And when you're operating your business in reaction mode, you don't have a day off. You don't have a day off. You don't have a night off. You don't have Sundays off. Right? It sucks, doesn't it? Type that in the comments if you agree. It sucks to be in reaction mode. It sucks. I've done this before. I'll tell you guys, I had 8 or 9 buyers agents. I was generating a lot of leads online. And man, when one come through, I felt like I had to call it or I had to get it to somebody as quick as I possibly could. And I'll tell you what, I was working 7 days a week, as close to 24 hours a day as I possibly could. And I'm pretty sure I had a stomach ulcer. Right? Pretty sure I had a stomach ulcer, but here's the thing. I didn't feel like I could go to the doctor about it because guess what? I didn't have time. I didn't feel like I could miss their call. And that sucks. And Zach just said on Facebook, he just took one at midnight the other night. Man, that's tough. I never called people at midnight, but I'd have people call me at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I think I had to answer, right? The reason being is because back then I didn't have a schedule. Yes, I am recording actually, by the way. I didn't think I had a schedule, and I didn't know what went into my schedule. I thought just if my eyes was open, I was working. But the thing that happened to me, or the thing that I realized later on, was that if I set up my business, I could set up the business I wanted to have. Does that sound really exciting to you guys? You can actually set up the business that you want to have. You don't have to be in reaction mode. The thing that it starts with is a schedule. And I teach this in my group coaching and stuff, but we got to have a schedule. And I want to tell you guys what actually goes into your schedule. Okay? This is what goes in your schedule. I'll put it all on one screen so you guys could screenshot it if you're listening on Facebook, if you're listening on Zoom, whatever it is, push the button and screenshot it. I want it all to be on one thing. The number one thing that goes into your schedule is family time. I believe that we should have a normal work schedule, right? Now I'll tell you, 3 days a week probably isn't going to cut it if we want to make a real full-time income in the real estate business. 5 days a week is normal work schedule. 5 days a week plus, half a day on Saturday, occasional Saturday, right? It's pretty normal. 6 days a week for the kind of money we want to make, 6 days a week isn't unheard of. Would you guys agree with that? The kind of money most of us want to make, working 6 days a week is not unheard of. Now, working 7 days a week, I'll tell you guys, now, every now and then I get caught up and I got to do something on Sunday, but man, I don't like to work on Sundays. It's not a religious thing. It's a Jason thing. I just don't want to, I don't want to work 7 days a week every single week. Now I'm not saying that I don't do stuff that I want to do, but 7 days a week is really tough. Like I'm doing this webinar for you guys because I want to help you, right? Yeah, Jenny just said she thinks she works 8 days a week. Well, I tell you one thing, guys, if you start switching your business, if you start looking at your business and really getting down to it, and you change your business, right? Change is hard. How many of you guys know that change is hard? You should say that out loud one time. Change is hard. Life is hard, right? But if you change your business from being a buyer heavy business to a seller heavy business, not only is it going to change your life, it's going to change everything, right? Gary Cherkis, he just said he closed his first seller he got for my system Wednesday. Guys, the thing that needs to go in your schedule, let's go down through this so we get to the next thing. Number one, you need to put your family time in your schedule, right? If you got date night on Wednesdays, you got to put that in there. If you have to take the kids to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning, you got to pick them up at 2:30, right? You got to put it in your schedule, because that 8:30 to 2:30, what a lot of people I see, a lot of agents had to see, is what they do is they drop the kids off. They drop the kids off at 8:30, and then they go home and they go run errands and they do all this stuff that honestly they could have done when the kids were with them. But here's the thing: you can't prospect lots of times. The kids running around the background. It's distracting. I'm not saying you can't 100%, but most of us can't. A lot of us should drop the kids off at 8:30, run around for 4 or 5 hours. Next thing we know is 12:30, 1 o'clock. We get lunch and then we go pick them up at 2 or 2:30. That's what happens to a lot of us. But what we got to do, if we had any other job, we couldn't do that. Any other job, we'd have a schedule we had to work. Any other job, if we didn't show up Monday, it might be okay if we called in. If we didn't show up Tuesday, we better have a good reason. If we didn't show up Wednesday and we didn't have a doctor's excuse, then Thursday they would be interviewing for our position, right? But in the real estate business, we can do that, and we don't think that it's a big deal. So, guys, we have to make our own schedule, right? And we need to make our schedule based off the goals we set for ourselves. Number one is family time goes in your schedule. Number two is non-negotiable business stuff. This is like your continuing education, a meeting with your client, coaching calls on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, right? That's number two. Things, if you're networking at chamber events, right, they're not going to change the chamber event for you. Right? Non-negotiable business stuff goes second. Number three is prospecting. Now, prospecting, here's something that a lot of us don't realize. Prospecting is the lifeline of your business. This is the lifeblood. Guys, a lot of you guys that are working buyer leads, and you guys are having that 7-8 days a week where business is up and down and sideways and all kind of crazy stuff. The reason why your business is crazy and unpredictable is because your prospecting is non-existent. If you prospect consistently for sellers, then you will have consistent listing appointments, which will lead to consistent listings, which will lead to consistent contracts and closings, right? So the number four thing that goes in our schedule is everything else. This is your paperwork, attending an office training thing, attending whatever it is, lunch with a client, whatever it is. This is number four. Guys, Number 3, though, we have to put in our schedule. We can't just say, hey, we'll call for sale by owners when we have time. And do you guys know why we can't say that? Is because we won't ever have time. That's the kind of funky thing that happens sometimes. Sometimes. So guys, when you make your schedule, what do you do with it? What do you do with it? So when you make your schedule, guys, if you want me to look over it, if you want me to help you with it, and give you a little bit of feedback on it, send it to me at jasonmorriscoaching@gmail.com. Right? Number 1, send it to me. Let me take a look at it. When you get your schedule down, send it to me. I'll be happy to look over it for you, give you some feedback on it. Number 2, the next person that you need to give it to is every person that needs to know where you're at it. So maybe you want to give one to your office manager. Maybe you want to give one to your broker. I'll tell you guys, though, the crazy thing is a lot of agents, when you start prospecting, when you start working on a seller-heavy business, one of the things that happens is a lot of people are going to push back on you. A lot of people are going to tell you it don't work. A lot of people are going to tell you that calling for sale by owners, calling expireds don't work, right? But the thing is, most of the success, if you look around your market, you start looking up agents and you look up the most successful agents in your market, one thing you're going to see is that the most successful agents in your market typically have the most listings. If you take out if you look at the top 10, look at the top 20, I guarantee you 75-80% will be really strong listing agents. So guys, you want to make a predictable income and have a predictable work schedule. Build a business based on prospecting for listings, not reacting to buyer leads. Guys, this is something that you got to do, right? You got to do it. You got to do it. If you want to be in the business, if you want to stay in the business for long term, you want to reduce the stress, reduce your stress when it comes to your income. Have a more stable income. Get rid of those, hey, I closed 5 last month, and then I got 0 this month, and I got 0 on the board for next month, right? You got to start prospecting. That's what's going to change that for you. If you want to have a predictable income and work schedule, build a business based on prospecting for listings, not reacting for buyers. So it is constantly putting our schedule to call for sale by owners. Clark, here's the thing. It's not just putting it on your schedule, it's actually doing it. So how many hours should you prospect? It's to have a system. It's to have a system to do it, Clark, right? To practice your scripts, practice your dialogues, practice your listing presentation. You have to have a system to follow to be able to perform at a high level, and you have to practice that system. A lot of agents, what they do, guys, is they get on the phone and they just make calls. They tell sellers whatever they think the seller wants to hear in the moment, or they do the quick, hey, Jason Morris here with eXp Realty. I was just calling you to see if can I list your house? And they go, oh no, I don't want to work with any sellers. No, I don't want to list my house. Blah blah blah. You guys are bad people. Blah blah blah, and then they hang up, right? That's what a lot of agents do. Or if they're lucky enough to get an appointment, they show up at the house and they just literally stay. They just spend the afternoon. I think they think they're going to wear them down, or until they sign the papers, or they believe they have to have this insane marketing presentation that lasts 2 hours. By the time they're finished with it, the people's eyes are rolling back in their head, and the people still don't list with them, right? So how many hours should you prospect a day? Here, this is kind of a funny thing here. So here's kind of the thing. So if you don't have any business, your job is to go out and find business. I think this is really something that's missed a lot. If you don't have business, your job is to go out and find business. So, and guys, as far as I know, that's kind of a vague answer, but if I was a new agent, if I was a new agent, Moses just said 2 hours in the chat on Zoom, but if I was a brand new agent, had no business, didn't know anybody, guys, I don't think sphere of influence is the best way to do business either. Is because, and the biggest reason is because your friends and family can only buy so many houses from you. It's kind of crazy. There's a lot of coaches out there that talk about building your business from referral. Building your business from referral, it's just not as stable. It's not predictable, guys. And this is what I'm talking about, building a predictable business. So if you don't have any business, your job is to go out and find business. Now, Moses, for an established agent that's been doing it for a while, I think 2 hours is plenty. For a brand new agent that just started, I think, and they're full time, I think what they should do is prospect as much as they possibly can. I mean, I think they should be, if they're not prospecting, they should be role playing or previewing houses to learn the market, right? If you don't have any business, your job is to go out and find business. So what's the easiest way to get more seller business? Now, this is probably going to be an easy thing here. Can I get some answers? What's the easiest way to get more seller business? You guys on Zoom, Facebook's a little bit delayed, so we'll give them just a second here. What's the easiest way to get more seller business? Let's see. I got open houses. Well, Clark asked about open houses. I don't recommend open houses, man. I'd rather spend, let's see, I got expireds. I got for sale by owners. I got old expireds. You guys on Facebook, I got expireds again. Man, the easiest way to get more seller business is to just talk to more sellers, right? If you want to work with more sellers, the number one thing you got to do is talk to more sellers. And it can be circle prospecting. It can be for sale by owners. It can be, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying circle prospecting is bad. I'll tell you guys one thing that I don't like, and I've never been a big fan of, is calling just absolute cold calling. I'm not an absolute cold caller. And the reason why I'm not is I like to feel like I have a purpose, right? I like to have a purpose when I'm calling you. A purpose. Now that purpose can be, I mean, maybe if you're doing an open house, you want to call about open house, but just listed, just sold, just pending, something happening in the community, something, but I like to have a purpose. So guys, talk to more sellers. Now, the number four thing you need to do when you're looking back and trying to get your back on track is, okay, you made your schedule, you've looked at your goal, you reviewed your goal, you've looked and thought about your business and what you're doing every day. The thing that you got to figure out is, if you're going to call more sellers or you're going to get more business, where's that business going to come from? Where's the seller business going to come from? I think this is kind of an interesting question. Yeah, I had a lady, this is a few years ago. She asked me if I could help her. And this is before I'd wrote any books, before I'd wrote like How to Be a FSBO Master, anything. And she was in my market. I'd met her at a random realtor thing. And so I told her I'd meet her at Starbucks, and I had like an hour I could spend with her. And at the time I was looking for new buyer's agent stuff too. And I thought maybe, hey, she'd be a good fit. And so I sit down at Starbucks to get a coffee. I'm chatting with her a little bit, and I said, "What's your goal this year?" And she said, her goal wasn't very big. She said, "Hey, I want to make $50,000." So, which $50,000 in my market, that's not a bad living. You can, you can live in my market off $50,000 a year. We're not like San Francisco or Los Angeles. So she said, and I said, well, in this point, it was like, it was late in the year. It was like about now. It's August, September. And I said, well, how much have you made so far this year? And she goes, well, I made about 8,000. I said, okay, well, you need to make $42,000 more. you make $42,000 more this year. And I said, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do differently the next 4 or 5 months of the year? And the lady looks at me and she goes, well, what I'm doing is working. And that just blew my mind, that for some reason she expected, like, she'd went through over half the year. She'd only made $8,000. She wasn't going to change anything based on what she was doing because she believed that what she was doing was working. What she was doing was working to make roughly $16,000 a year. If she wanted to make another $42,000 this year, then she needed to make some changes. She make, so one of the things that we got to figure out though is where's your leads coming from? Where's your business going to come from? Right? So now this is what I recommend. I think this is easy, most cost-effective recommendations. Number one, I like Red X. I like for sale by owners. I like expireds, and I like for rent by owners. Now, if I was in the position like a lot of agents and I was trying to either jumpstart my year so I could finish really strong, bump up my year a little bit, maybe you're on track and you're just going to try to, you'd like to exceed your goal, right? There's some of you guys listening to this, I'm sure you've hit your goal, you're on track to hit your goal, but you want to do better, right? You're ahead. Sometimes we get that too. When we're ahead, we get complacent. I'd get Red X, for sale by owners, expireds, and for rent by owners, basically in that order. My number two thing, I never recommend but two lead sources. There's Red X and Z Buyer. Both of them give real estate agents that really work a discount. All you got to do is call them and ask. But those are the only two lead sources I recommend. Number three, or I recommend paying for. Number three, you can buy my book, 53 Strategies to Get More Listings. You get it off Amazon. It's got tons of stuff in there. It's just a list with some details of ideas. I think it's like $3, the Kindle version. But number one's Red X, number two, Z Buyer. Red X, if I was a new subscriber to Red X and I was just getting started, number one, I get for sale by owners, right? Just for sale by, and I'll tell you this, people ask me this, oh, well, if I could only afford one, what would I get? And I always say for sale by owners. Number one, they're cheap. Number two, like, I'll tell you, for sale by owners, that's always been my thing. It was kind of like my niche that I got really good at, right? I was good at expireds, but for sale by owners was like the thing I had like tons of confidence at calling. I was real comfortable calling them. No problems. I felt like everybody was nice to me. Maybe it was but I think it was it's been a mindset thing for me than an actual, hey, I'm better at this than that kind of thing, right? But I get for sale by owners and I ask for all the old leads. They'll give them to you with your membership. You subscribe right now and they'll give you all the old ones. Number two, I'd get the expireds. The expireds, now their system will go and it'll sort through and you get all the ones that are not listed, that haven't been relisted. I would get the last 12 to 24 months of expireds. Depending on your market, depending on how many of them there are out there, I'd probably go ahead and get 24 months, right? And number three, I would get for rent by owners. And the reason I would get for rent by owners too, I think this is the lead source that everybody forgets about. All these people are literally investors that own a home that they don't live in. And most of them, I bet a large percentage of them got stuck with it. A lot of for rent by owners are not landlords by choice. Clark, actually, I got scripts and everything for rent by owners. I laid out a whole plan for them not long ago. But a lot of these for rent by owners are not landlords by choice. They were like cast into the whole landlording thing. They were upside down on a house. They couldn't get rid of it. They couldn't afford for it to sit empty. And basically they just kind of got stuck. And now every time, the person moves out, it's like, oh, I got to rent it back as quick as I can. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in that position or ever seen people in that position, but for rent by owners, guys, is a gold mine. A gold mine. And we know, I'll tell you a couple things. We know that if they rented their property in the month of August, more than likely they signed a 12-month lease. More than likely. So we know August of 2019, their property is probably going to go empty, or it's time for a lease renewal. Or if you, hopefully you've been following up with them all through the year. But if you haven't, then we know that, or if you have, we know that typically if the lease doesn't end and the person moves out, they're probably being evicted or they just skip out, right? They're problem tenant. And when you have a problem tenant, man, you just want to be done with the whole thing. So guys, there's a gold mine in for rent by owners that nobody goes after. I've never talked, the only agents I ever talked to that are calling for rent by owners are the people that are in my group coaching program. So let's see. Let's get to the next slide. So Z-Buyer. So what do you do with Z-Buyer? Guys, I really like Z-Buyer. I subscribed to Z-Buyer years ago for the seller leads, about probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago maybe. I subscribe because of the seller leads. I'm only interested in the seller leads. You do get buyer leads with the program too. However, my main focus is sellers. So as soon as the lead comes through, you got to call it. Use my scripts. You can find them on my YouTube channel. If you search Jason Morris Z-Buyer, you'll find them, right? And you need to take and follow up with these leads until A, they list with you, B, they verifiably sell the house, or C, the number's disconnected. Does that make sense? The biggest thing I see that agents do with Z-Buyer or really any seller lead source is they call them one time and they say, oh, I left a message. They'll call me back. And that's the craziest thing, right? You guys think about that. How many times do you guys call sellers back? Lance just said he loves Z-Buyer. It's a great source. It's a fantastic source. Is it, Lance? But number 5, this time of year, you need to get every lead you can find. Every lead that's came through all year, every seller lead, every lead you can find, every person that you think wants to buy or sell a house, you need to get all their numbers together. Okay, the number one thing you need to do is you need to plan a few days, put it in your schedule, right? Put it in your schedule when you're going to call them. And number 1, you need to call them. And number 2, once you call everybody, if you do what I told you to do with the for sale by owners and the expireds, you'll probably end up with 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, just depends on your market. And these are people that at some point wanted to sell their house, and you know it because either they had it on the market with another agent or they had a little red and white sign out in front, right? So you mean to tell me that if you called 1,000 or 1,500 of them within a 2 or 3 day period, that a certain percentage of those wouldn't want to still sell their house? Now, something I've learned over the years, whenever I've done this myself, and I took massive action like this, something I always learned was that I always got 1 to 2%. So if I had a list of 1,000 people, I ended up with about 10 to 20 leads to follow up with. Then when I called them the second time, all the people I didn't talk to, when I called them back a second time, I would get another 1 to 2%. So guys, if you don't have business and you don't have leads to work with, spend $100 over at RedX. Get a bunch of numbers, call them, and what you're going to end up with is if you get 1,000 leads, you're probably going to end up with, and you call them one time, you use my scripts, you call them one time, okay, and then all the ones you don't get to talk to, you call them back again, you're going to end up with 20 to 30 pretty good leads that want to do something in the next 30 to 45 days. Your job after that is just to follow up with them. Doesn't that sound like pretty easy? Give me the thumbs up if that sounds easy to you. Or if it sounds easier than what you're doing now, or more likely you'll get more business than what you're doing now. Man, I got 4 or 5 actually. Does that sound more likely to get you business than what you're doing currently today? It just makes sense, right? Guys, and this is something interesting. Like in my group coaching, the stuff I talk about makes sense. And the reason why it does is because I've been in the business for 14 years, performing at a pretty high level. Oh, Suzette, you know what? Calling the old Z buyer leads from months ago. I tell you what, I listed one week before last, and the guy came through 18 months ago. Yeah, I'd still call them because here's the thing. They might have been thinking about selling their house 18 months ago. They had a couple of realtors call them from wherever, and they couldn't quite get what they wanted. But now the market's changed, right? Most of us in most markets around the country, you can get a lot better price. You can get a lot better price for it today than you could before. And Donna said she's horrible at follow up and working on changing that. You know what, Donna? What you need to do is sit down. You can go to Amazon. You can buy my follow up master day planner. I think it's $25 right now. It's just discounted because we're basically over halfway through the year. But sit down. If you don't want to do that, if you don't have $25 to spend, sit down and write out what are you going to do, like for them, right? And write out like 10 to 12 follow-up ideas where you're actually picking up the phone and calling them. Here's the thing. What we do as agents is a lot of us try to go the least impactful way. Like we want to send them something in the mail, which mail, I'm sorry, I know some agents in the past, mail was really successful. I made a little money doing mail 12, 14 years ago. But in 2018, like junk mail don't even come in our house. I got a mailer from a realtor now, probably a week or so ago. The only reason I remember getting the mailer is because I used to work at the same office with the guy, and honestly, I thought the guy was dead. I mean, I know that sounds like really crazy, but that's the only reason I remember getting the mailer. And I mean, he sent out like a full page size postcard type material, probably cost him $2 to send to me. And I'm a real estate agent, right? And I know we've got other mail from that, but you think about it, we get so much junk mail, it's hard to cut through the clutter. I believe that your follow up should be, I think it should be number one, telephone call, number two, text, number three, email. The problem is a lot of agents, they want to send an email, and when they send an email, they don't just send a basic email, 2 or 3 lines, quick reply, call to action, like, hey, my office sold 27 properties last month. It looks like, we talked a while back, my office sold 27 properties last month. When are you looking to get yours on the market? Right? They don't send like a solid email like that. They send a book that says, oh, yeah, we're the best at marketing. We're the best at this. And, our agents go to 400 hours of training a week and we do blah, 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 blah. And, we got this, but they don't really. And guys, think about it. When we get an email like that, that's 4 pages long, that's completely unsolicited, we just delete it. And the thing too, a lot of agents, when they do send email and they do follow up with email, it has nothing personal, nothing customized. What it is spam. They sent the same email to 200 people or 2,000 people. And they go, oh, well, nobody wants to call me. Well, dude, nobody wants to call you because it all went to their spam folder, right? Yeah, 400 hours a week. They don't want to call you because it all went to their spam folder. So nobody really saw your email, which is kind of interesting. Like I think that should be something that a lot of agents are still doing email marketing, and they're doing it in such a way that's all drip campaigns. And the problem with the drip campaigns is, especially if you're using the canned ones that were part of your CRM, they've already been marked with spam. So Google isn't letting them go anywhere near the actual inbox. They're all going to promotions folder or something like that, so nobody sees them, right? But Donna, you got to get your follow-up system together. So, and that was my next point. Make sure you have a follow-up plan for your leads. So all these people that you call, when you go down through the 1,000 people, when you go down through the 1,500 people, make sure you have a follow-up plan for your leads. If, And another thing I hear about is the best CRM. It's a question I see all the time. The best CRM, number one, is the one you'll use. The best CRM I've ever used, I use RedX and I use Vortex, and in ZBuyer I print them all out as they come through. But the best CRM I've used is a notebook. It's a 5-subject notebook. I write down one when I get a hot lead, somebody that I've had a meaningful conversation with, they go in the notebook. So guys, think about that. If you got a notebook that has 20, 30, 40 leads in it that are all seller leads you've talked to, you've had a meaningful conversation with, you know they want to sell their house. I mean, how much would that notebook be worth? Like how exciting would that be to carry that notebook around with you that had 40, 50 seller leads in it that are probably worth, depending on your market, they're probably worth $4,000 to $6,000 a piece, right? But make sure you have a follow-up plan for your leads. Number 6, guys, I think this is so important. You got to review your goals every day. Most of us, what we're doing is we write down our goals at the beginning of the year. We write down our New Year's resolutions. Then we stick them in a drawer. We close the Microsoft Word document or whatever it is we wrote them down on, because most of us are typing them out on something we'll never pull up on my computer again. And then we never actually go back and review them. It's hard to get excited about a goal that you set in January when you hadn't looked at the piece of paper since January. You got to look at your goals. You got to read them every day, right? If nothing else, it just reinforces that, hey, I really want that. It's easy to when you get a little bit discouraged, you get a little bit complacent. It's easy for that goal to go by the wayside and get changed out with, hey, I just want to make a living, right? How many of you guys started out with a really big goal at the beginning of the year, and now your goal is, I just want to pay my bills? I hate real estate. I just want to pay my bills. How many of you guys have been there before, right? It happens to us. It happens to all of us. We go from, man, I'm really excited because if I just do this, this, and this, I can make $150,000 this year. And for a lot of people, and probably a lot of people listening to this, if you made $150,000 in a year, that'd be the most money you've ever made. A lot of us would be like that. Hey, if you made $150,000 in the next 12 months, right? Most money you ever made. So you're really excited about it when you set that goal and you work back the numbers. You work back the numbers to figure out what that goal is. You're super excited. You're motivated. Then you stuck that goal in your desk drawer. You piled some other junk on top of it. And then you don't pull it out again. Or when you pull out again, you're so damn discouraged by the whole thing, you just throw it away. And Joanne, you're right, 150,000 is deadly, because a lot of us spend 200,000. Yeah, that's right. But you got to make some money. But I see that happen a lot. I see agents that get really discouraged, and you got to adjust. I read some kind of thing. It's a while back, an airplane going from New York to Los Angeles made something like 300 adjustments on the flight to make sure it was on the path that it was supposed to be on. They don't just sit it and forget it, right? So guys, if you join my group coaching, guys, a lot of the stuff we talked about tonight, if you feel like you're not on track and you want your business to be different than what it is, guys, my group coaching is available. I've got a coupon code. It's Back on Track. It'll reduce the price to $40 a month. I almost said 40,000. It's just 40. So just go to jasonmorrisgroupcoaching.com. At the checkout, use Back on Track, and it'll reduce the price to $40 a month. So guys, the discount that I'm offering is only limited. It's limited actually to the next 10 people that join After that, the price goes back up to the regular price. It's backontrack.com. Back on track is the coupon code. Guys, my coaching program is going to give you the tools to cost effectively build a successful business. My focus is low cost and no cost systems of lead generation. Johanna said, do it, people. I think you sent that message to me. But my focus is low cost and no cost lead generation and systems. There's no Facebook ad buy-in. There's no crazy CRM. There's nothing that you have to really buy. We even talk about a lot of free lead sources, which is kind of odd. You don't hear about that most of the time. So it's month to month. There's no contract. And guys, what questions do you guys have? I got some time here. I see we got probably about 50, 60 people still on the call. What questions do you guys have? What things can I help you with your business? Let's see. Let me look back through the chat. So, let's see. So Clark asked at the beginning, I don't know if you're still on here, Clark, but I want to make sure I got to your question. How much money should you spend on education and coaching? Is it a certain percentage of your income? You know what? I think we should all be spending money learning. I'll tell you this, like, even if it's $10 book, guys, a lot of people go, hey, I don't want to spend money on this because it's $10 or whatever. But here's the thing, like, if you can spend $10 to get one idea that motivates you for 3 or 4 days or a week to work a little bit harder, it's worth it, right? I think that me personally, I probably spend $1,000, $1,500 a month on just random. I don't want to say it's random, but between books, audio stuff, I'm always buying something. I'm always in a program. I feel like something. So yeah, Clark. Hey, group coaching call is 11 a.m. Eastern on Thursdays. It's in the group coaching group, man. Which is Jason Moore's group coaching. Yeah. Yeah, so this is sometimes on Sundays I do these free webinars and we talk about things that are my group coaching goes a lot more in depth on these things. Like doing that massive action plan. That's probably going to be what this week's call is going to be about, is going in depth. I'm going to give you scripts, I'm going to give you dialogues, I'm going to give you everything where you don't have to even think. You just follow directions, man. Yeah, man. Let me know. Send me a message through Facebook if you have any problems. But Richard asked, when prospecting for sale by owners expires consistently, how soon should you be able to start setting appointments? Well, Richard, you know what? It's hard to say, man. I'll tell you, I've seen some people, they start setting appointments the first day, and which is really cool. And some of the tougher markets might take you a little bit longer. I would say that within a week, 2 weeks, you should be getting appointments. I'll tell you the biggest thing is consistency and not changing the script. I always recommend my scripts, and the reason being is because my scripts were, honestly, they were evolved over time. I went through a lot of coaching programs. I've figured out things that worked for me and wasn't working for me. My scripts are more like a dialogue, a regular conversation, rather than, hey, trying to trick you or get one up on you, or asking you some dumb question that doesn't even matter. And one of the big things too is, because mine are more like a conversation, you're not reading off the page. Like, there's a couple of bigger real estate coaches out there that give all their scripts away, and one of the crazy things with them is their scripts are so heavily used. Like, there's a for sale by owner survey script. The script's so heavily used, a lot of the sellers know the script better than you do when you call them. But once you ask 100 sellers, 200 sellers, 500 sellers, the same questions over and over, it isn't going to take you long, and you're going to know all the answers. And you're going to know all the objections you get, and you're going to get really good at overcoming and anticipating those questions and answers and objections and stuff. So I really think that varies, but I think that I think if you get in a good strong program, depending on your market, if you're in like a middle average market in the country, I think you start setting appointments this week. Man, I talked to one agent that I think he told me he set 7 appointments in one day last week. He's been in my coaching program a little while now. Um, and then I've talked to some agents that they set 1 or 2 appointments a week. But the thing is, it's about repetition. Repetition. Jim, my scripts are not really on YouTube. I do have some live calls I've made on YouTube. In the past, I got a lot of live calls. A lot of my scripts, most of my scripts, guys, are available in my group coaching. They're in the file section of the group coaching group. But there are some live calls on YouTube, and in my group coaching, I had a lot of live calls I've done in the past. So Susan asked, when can we order the 2019 Spiral Bound Day Planner? Oh man, that's a tough question. Right now, I got all the base content. However, I want it to be excellent. Like last year's, I thought was really good, and I thought it was a product that nobody else, I'd never seen anybody do. And I'll tell you how that came about. I wanted to write a follow-up book on how to build your follow-up plan. And I was at this training event. I was talking to this guy, and he was telling me about a day planner he'd wrote for the network marketing industry. And he's telling me about it. And I'm telling him about my idea for a follow-up, coming up with a follow-up plan that's not like a 10-page book, something you can actually go out there and use. And anyway, that's where that whole idea come from. And I thought it was good last year because I'd never seen anything like it, and I didn't think the industry had anything like that. This year, though, I want to make it even better. So I'm thinking that it'll probably be late September, just because I got some other stuff I want to add to it. I want to do an official launch, and I got some really cool stuff I want to give away, and some ideas that I want to do, kind of centered around that. But Richard, they are available in the group. Paula asked, can you post some of the recordings of your Facebook calls and group coaching? Actually, Paula, if you search hashtag Jason Coaching, you'll be able to go back through some of the videos and stuff, and they're actually already in there. I want to say I posted a bunch of them around March or April, I want to say. But let's see, Moses. I'm doing it for 2 months, and they keep on slipping away from me one after the next. Dude, Moses, you can be really successful with for sale owners. The biggest thing you gotta look at, and gosh, this was the call I think 2 weeks ago. What's happening between the time you set an appointment and you leave in their house, and then what happens after the listing appointment if you don't get it? Now, what you need is an easy to follow, replicable system that you're doing over and over, right? It's not anything crazy. I'll tell you what, I used to have the same problem you did. What I was doing when I first started was I was really good at telling people what they wanted to hear over the phone. And since you're on Zoom, I don't see a last name. I don't know if you're in my group coaching or anything. If you're in my group coaching already, go back and listen to the video. I want to say it was the first one from August this month. I think it was August 2nd. And that video will help you because I went through all this stuff. But what would happen to me is I was really good at telling people what they wanted to hear on the phone, and I was really good at getting my foot in the door. Now, here's the problem. Once I got my foot in the door, I tried to keep it there until I thought I was going to wear them down. But what would happen was I'd spend 2 hours, 3 hours at their house, and I'd leave their house going, man, those people love me. They invited me to dinner. What I wouldn't think about was, man, I live in South Carolina. Most people are pretty friendly. Most people in general everywhere are pretty friendly, but I'd go, man, these people invited me to dinner. And then it kind of dawned on me one day, no shit, they invited me to dinner because they didn't think I was ever going to leave, And that's something that happens. And what I learned was, I'll tell you one thing I learned was the more I set expectations before I got to their door, and the shorter amount of time that I was there, the more likely I was going to list their house. And what you need when you do that is you got to stay on track. You got to stay on track. You got to go through the house. You got to at least appear to be an expert. You got to go show up, and you got to be totally 100% prepared. What happens to most agents is they show up and they don't have nothing. They don't have the paperwork. They don't have a pricing strategy. I'll tell you this too. And I'll tell you this even with overpriced listings. A lot of agents price property wrong. That was something I went over too, is how to price property based on the competition and based on how to sell it. A lot of agents are doing CMAs that just won't work. They don't even know how they come up with a number, right? But you got to have a pricing strategy, and you got to sit down and you got to say, hey, this is my pricing strategy. This is how I price property to get you the most money. And you go down through it with them. You got to have a net sheet because we want to be 100% open. We want to be 100% transparent. You got to have a net sheet. Then you got to show up with all your paperwork filled out. And I'll tell you what, another mistake agents are making at the listing appointment is they try to do all that stuff on a tablet. And doing it all on a tablet sucks because most people are not as tech savvy as that real estate industry is. We think we have to have the latest, greatest cell phone, the latest and greatest app, or only God knows what. And the thing is, look, if you're sitting at the end of the table and you've got the husband on one side, the wife on the other, and you're trying to go through, 12, 15, 20 pages of paperwork on a tablet, dude, it just don't work, It just doesn't work. And then if they're trying to review them and go back over them to see if they have any questions at the end, you kind of get that glazed over look, and they go, oh, we're going to have to think about this and get back to you. Or, oh, we want to interview another agent. Or sometimes, if you've got these 2-hour presentations, then they're probably looking at you, their eyes are glazed over, and they're thinking to themselves, oh my God, is everything this guy does this long and drawn out? So you got to have a system, guys. You got to have a system for what happens when you set the appointment. Is your pre-listing package going out? Are you following up? We went through all that stuff on August 2nd, I believe, was the call, but it's in the group coaching group. What are the questions you guys have? What things can I help you with? I got about 10 more minutes here. So, guys, I really appreciate you guys being on the call. Well, let's see. I got another one there. Door knocking. Talk about your feelings and scripts. Jim, I'll tell you the thing I don't like about door knocking, man, is because and it isn't a lazy thing. It's just that I feel like my time is better used being on the phone. I can touch more people. And I'll tell you, I think door knocking in 2018, I'm just not a big fan of it. I'm not a big fan of door knocking, and the reason being is because I'll tell you this, man. If you come to my door, I live in a gated community. If you come knock on my door and I'm not expecting it, we might not answer the door, right? If we don't recognize you, we might not answer the door. People do crazy stuff nowadays. That's number one. I think it's dangerous for you, and sometimes it's dangerous for the people there. Not saying that you would do anything to them, but they don't know who's at the door. That's number one. Number two is, by the time I walk from house number one to house number two, depending on how long the driveways are and all that stuff, man, I probably could have called 4 or 5 numbers. I just feel like I can touch more people and have more meaningful conversations and have more targeted conversations. That's another problem with door knocking that I don't really care for, is that you get out of the community, like the average community in the country, and I don't know where I got this number from, but I've been thinking, I've had this number in my head for years. It was told to me by a coach years ago. But the number I was told was the average community only has an 8% turnover ratio a year. right? So if you've got a community of, say, let's say 200 houses, only 16 of those are going to sell within the next 12 months. So roughly you got one a month. So, your odds of just, you might talk to some people, but at the same time, you're going to knock on a lot of doors that have no interest. If you're calling for sale owners, you're calling expireds, you're calling the community. I just think you can touch so many more people, man. I'm just not a fan of door knocking. Richard, if you're having trouble setting appointments, do you have any recommendations? Number one, I'd look at the script you're using. My book, How to Be a FSBO Master, has my script in the back. But I would look at the script you're using. A lot of scripts right now are crazy. They're 2 pages long. They got 25 questions, and half the questions are about as relevant as, hey, are you going to take your cat with you when you move? I'd look at the script I was using, and I'd look at, the kinder, gentler approach to the whole thing. Right. But that'd be number one. I'd look at the script I'm using. I'd look at what kind of responses. If you're just getting hung up on all the time, it's probably that you're using a script that's too long, 4 or 5 questions, 6 questions, conversation based, is really what you need to be looking for. But I got a feeling if you're getting hung up on a lot, it's because of the script you're using. So, John Joyce, did you have your pre-listing package professionally created? You know what? I think you can go to Fiverr and probably get a good looking Word template. Richard, what are the objections you're having? Tell us, and I'm going to answer John's question. I'll come back to some of the objections. But did you have your? But no, you know what? I created mine in Google Docs, and then I had it cleaned up a little bit, had a little bit of a template done on Fiverr. If you go to jasonmorrisprelistingpackage.com, you can get it there for free. Or you can get the template for free that I use. Jim asks, where do you gather your numbers to call for circle prospecting? Jim, if I was going to circle prospect today, and what I've used is RedX GeoLeads. RedX has a program called GeoLeads. It's pretty user friendly. You just drop a pin down and it just gives you all the numbers for the neighborhood or the street or whatever you're calling. So let's see, Richard hadn't posted his objections yet, but I'll tell you, okay, so here's some of the most common objections. I don't want to work with a realtor. Okay, that's a big objection. Lots of times you got to decide one of two things. Okay, you got to decide if it's an objection or a condition. An objection is a smokescreen. It's something just to get you off the phone, which is usually something like, oh, I don't want to work with a realtor. I don't want to pay a commission. It's just a smokescreen, something they've told the last 20 realtors that call them. They got them off the phone with them, right? Now, a condition. Okay, a condition is different than an objection because a condition, what it is a condition is something that is real, that is going on. Like, hey, they can't meet you because of a doctor's appointment, right? Which maybe they have a doctor's appointment. They can't meet you at 10 a.m. because they have to work. That's a condition, right? A lot of agents, back when we had Hurricane Matthew, I guess it was a year or so ago. I think it was a year ago, or 2 years ago. Back when we heard Hurricane Matthew, though, I remember there was a lot of agents saying, "Hey, I'm just getting all these crazy objections." Well, really, there were conditions. Houses were flooded. I remember I had a guy that, man, he had a tree laying over on his roof. It didn't really cause much damage, but dude, we couldn't take a picture with the tree laying on the roof, right? So, that's just a condition. You got to follow up and just wait it out. Okay. Let's see. Richard said, some of the ones I've ran into are the ones relisting with the same agent, or they're not interested in listing again with an agent. Okay, that's cool, man. I'll get to that here in just a second. Rob's on Zoom, and he's got some similar ones. I know a real estate agent. If I don't sell it on my own, I'll use them. Okay, both of these things are objections. Guys, the easiest way, if you can't overcome the objection there on the phone, is to basically don't be combative. Don't argue with them. Don't fight with everybody because they remember you then, right? Just hang up, call them back on the next day, call them back 2 or 3 days. If they had a real estate agent that they already knew they wanted to use, then they would have already listed with them. My favorite thing to say, Rob, when they say, hey, I've already got an agent in mind. Hey, fantastic. That's great. Who are they? And sometimes they won't even be able to give you a name. Sometimes they go, oh, well, it's my cousin. And you go, oh, no problem. Hey, well, look here. I know that sometimes you may want to interview multiple agents. You may want to have a second choice. I tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to send you over my pre-appointment package. It tells about me, my team, and what we do to sell real estate. It's got our whole marketing plan in it. I can email it over to you, and at least to give you something to compare with the other agent. Maybe there's a few things in it that they're not doing they can do for you. How's that sound? What's your email? Guys, the pre-listing package is the number one tool that you can use to combat a lot of objections, right? And then follow up the next day. Hey, I just want to make sure you got it. See if you had a chance to look over it. Do you have any questions? Anything I can help you with? Fantastic, right? If they say they want to use I want to use the agent that we used before. Okay. The number one question I always ask, Richard, oh, wow. Well, why do you think they weren't able to sell it before? It's a fantastic question. Why do you think they weren't able to sell it before? Let them give you some crazy answer because they're not going to want to. And you know what? My favorite one is to let them answer and then say, guys, and I deal with a lot of properties like this. I tell you what, how about if I do a little bit of research for you? And I'll tell you why I didn't think it sold. What if I give you a call back a little bit later today? And that lots of times they'll say, no obligation. I'll help you out. I'll just take a quick look and I'll give you a call back later today. And then my next question is, if they say yes to that, say, hey, well, I tell you what, I'd like to go ahead and send you an email. It just tells about me, my team, and what we do to sell houses. Just gives you some information on who you're talking to. How's that sound? Right? And that is fantastic. If you call them back, I'll tell you, here's the thing. Now, I did a big series on this a while back. If it's an expired listing, the price is not always the reason it expired. There's a lot of reasons. It could be their last agent was just a jerk, right? Nobody wanted to work with him. We all have those agents in our market that were like, oh my God, this is listed with so-and-so. Do I really have to call them, right? Or we have those agents that don't answer their cell phone. We have the agent that just won't set the appointment. We have the agent that we have a lot of things. There's a lot of reasons. Maybe there was bad pictures. Maybe it was a bad description. I had one, this was a few years ago. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a 2-car garage. And already knew the girl. She calls me up and she goes, hey, my house just listed. My house just expired with another agent. And I don't know why it didn't sell. Can you help me? Well, I kind of knew a little bit of details about her house. I didn't know a whole lot, but I know a little bit, So I look it up on MLS. The previous agent had taken pictures and they had done all this stuff and they didn't mention the 2-car garage at all. There wasn't a picture of it. It wasn't the description. The little check mark wasn't marked on the thing to say that it had one. Nothing. So basically what happened with the whole thing was basically, as a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house without a garage, it looked way overpriced. With a garage, it looked like it was priced reasonably well, right? So we put it back on the market. I made sure to put the garage in there. Thing sold. They didn't list the garage and they didn't mention that it had a big sunroom off the back of it. There's no pictures, no nothing. And the house was priced right. It looked good. They were willing to show it any time. But that sort of stuff wasn't mentioned. I had another one a while back that was it was a 2-bedroom condo, and the lady had told me a little bit about some details on the phone. Well, I pull it up and I'm going, she told me it had crown molding throughout. I pull up the pictures. First thing I realized was the pictures had no crown molding. She said she had new kitchen cabinets. The pictures had old kitchen cabinets in them, right? The real estate agent's office was inputting the listings for them. They inputted the wrong pictures. The lady had her house on the market 6 months with the wrong pictures. Nobody ever looked, right? So price isn't the only reason. You know what, Paula? Sometimes we won't be able to figure out why it didn't sell. Sometimes it might have been the seller was just never available to show it. But the easy things to pick apart is the description and the pictures. When you're calling the seller, it's easy to say, hey, they got bad pictures. Hey, the pictures are really dark. Hey, the pictures aren't really good. It's easy to pick those things apart. It's easy to pick apart, well, you mentioned this and this and this to me, and they don't have any of that in the description. You know, it's easy to pick those things apart when you're talking to them about why it didn't sell, right? Sometimes the listing's just been on the market for a little while, just needs to be refreshed. You know, it happens. I mean, if you got one like that and you get a $500 price reduction, that'll usually refresh the listing and get it sent out through all those e-alerts and all that fancy stuff again. But what other questions do you guys have? Oh, this is a good one. Clark, what's your answer to the objection? Open Door is offering me more than your price. Fantastic. You should sell it to Open Door. No, I'm joking. Clark, I'll tell you this. I see this a lot, man. I would review your pricing strategy and how you're coming up with comps. Because I mean, I tell you this. I had a lady that I talked to earlier today, and she just had a home lot, and she told me, she goes, put it on a couple of these things. She kept talking to me about listing it for her, and she told me, she goes, put it on a couple of websites, and I got a guy that came by that made me a cash offer, and she told me what it was for. And really, my response to her was, you should take that offer. That's a really good offer for you. And if you don't have to pay my fees, it's even better. You should take that. And the crazy thing is, sometimes they don't want to do it, which is weird. Like that lady, she acted like she didn't really want to do it, and she still wants to meet me tomorrow, which is really really backwards. I mean, I feel like I gave her the best advice, and sometimes you got to do that. But Clark, I believe that you need to review your pricing strategy, because I'll tell you this: if you're seeing that often, where Open Door is offering more money than what you're telling people you can get for their house, I'll tell you guys, I like the idea of an active pricing strategy, and it works. Everything in our lives, we buy based on competition. But for some reason, as real estate agents, we think that we should be buying houses or selling houses based on past performance, right? Past performance, not where the market is right now. If we all tried to go out and buy Bitcoin based on previous selling prices, we'd all lose a lot of money. If we all tried to buy, whatever the latest technology is that kids are in right now, if we tried to buy the iPhone 7 for the price that it sold for in the past, we'd all be a little bit upset. Now the active pricing strategy, I got this idea. Okay, let's say if we went and bought bed sheets, we're going to buy bed sheets. We go up to JCPenney and we look at the bed sheets. Okay, if we can't get the bed sheets we want for the price we want to pay, then we only have 3 options. Number 1, we can go to a different store, right? Number 2, we can wait till they go on sale. Number 3, we can quit being cheap and raise our price a little bit. Okay, buyers are just like this. For a buyer that is serious about buying a house today, if they can't buy the house they want to buy for the price they want to pay, they only have 3 options also. They can go to a different area. Okay, but if they go to a different area, maybe they're not going to be in the school district they want to be in. Maybe they're not going to be down the street from mom and dad. Maybe they're not going to be close to work. Maybe they're not going to be close to whatever it is. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they can wait till one goes on sale. We all know what you get when you buy a house that's on sale in the real estate industry. Usually it's in kind of rough shape. Usually there's a problem. It's either in bad shape, there's a problem with the lot, there's a problem somewhere that's going to make up that difference. Or number three, we got to go back to the lender, ask if you can loan us a little bit more money, right? So I believe in an active pricing strategy, and I believe we need to price based off of active competition, not the house that sold 6 months ago. Because if your market is going up, that house that sold 6 months ago in the neighborhood is going to be priced low. It's going to look like the listing is overpriced if you're looking at that for comparison. If your market is going down and you look at the listing that sold price based on the listing sold 6 months ago, you're going to be pricing too high, but it's going to look like it's priced right? But if we price based on what's actively available in the market, then how can we really lose, right? If you could take their house and say, hey, your house is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a 2-car garage within a 1-mile radius, there's 12 of them that are about the same square footage. They're actual real comparables. And this is how your house is greater or worse than them. There's 3 that are cheaper, but you're on a pond. You don't have an HOA. Whatever's plus in your market. I find that HOAs can be a plus or a minus, just depending on what the mindset of your market and the mindset of the buyer. Here it seems like everything's an HOA lately, or the last few years. So if it doesn't have an HOA, I always feel like it's a big deal, like a positive big deal. Hey, you can park a boat in your driveway. You can, park your RV there, whatever it is. So what other questions you guys have? Do you have anything I can help you with? Hey, no problem. Did that help you, Clark? Does that make sense? I think a lot of brokerages out there, when they teach agents how to do these CMAs and stuff, they're a little bit funky. You add for this and take off for that, and do a price per square footage, and it's just not accurate. It just makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, and you know what? Sphere of influence due to low pricing. I agree. I can see that happening for sure. For sure. Yep, focusing on solds. It's hard to and two, we don't really know sometimes about the solds. Well, I show expired listings. Guys, I always feel like if it's not on the market, if it's not on MLS right now, I don't want to show it. Clark, that's right. You know what? A lot of markets are different, man. But Rob, you're right. Condition of the home and deferred maintenance, that affects the price too. Looking at solds just isn't really the answer. It's not the answer we want to believe it is as real estate agents. It's just not the answer that we believe it is. And it's confusing too. Like lots of times we don't know how we come up with the price. I really believe that a lot of agents are coming up with things that just don't make sense to them at all. Hey, no problem, man. No problem. Hey, guys. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys being on the call with me. Uh, if I can help you with your business, you want to join my group coaching, just send me a message through Facebook, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great night.